Guys! Today I'm going to be comparing all of the pens that I currently own as sort of a continuation from my highlighter comparison video that I've done previously. The first pens are the Sakura 0.8 Jelly Roll pens. This is the classic pack, and I love that these colors are more earthy toned because the rest of the pens that I own are pretty bright and pastel colored. The line it makes is very, very thick, and because of that, the pen itself is very, very inky, much like gel pens typically are. And so as a result, it smears a lot. And that's something I don't really appreciate as a lefty because I end up with pen all up and down my hand. But I love, love, love these colors, and they write very smoothly. They don't skip at all, which is nice. And I like that they're capped. The ink is very, very fluid, and you can tell because it bleeds through paper like crazy. Next are the 0.38 Pilot Juice pens. They have a couple colors that are very, very light because I think I have the 12 pack. They're super comfortable to use because of the rubberized grip on the pen itself, which I really, really appreciate. I actually used these pens like during all of my AP exams, and I never had a problem, didn't skip at all, and are very, very consistent. They don't smear. As a lefty, like I've never had a problem with it smearing. And I love the colors, especially the purples and the blues are amazing. I also think it's really cool that these retractable pens actually have another part that is really cool. It's the spring-loaded clip on the side, and I use them to gather papers up in my backpack. And the nib itself isn't very scratchy. There are a lot of pens that are, 0.4 and smaller that are very scratchy and needle-like, but these are very smooth and aren't scratchy at all. And they really don't bleed through paper. They ghost through if you've shaded a large portion of it, but typically it's not a problem. Next are the Muji Gel Ink 0.38 pens. These are a study community favorite. I had a lot of doubts buying them just because I wasn't really sure what to expect. And I was right because these are pretty inconsistent. I love how the ink flows. It's extremely pigmented. The color selection is amazing. These are my favorite selection of colors that a pen set has, but they skip a lot. I've had problems where it's extremely inky when it shouldn't be, and if it's ever unexpectedly inky, it will smear or bleed through the paper depending. As you can see here, it really doesn't bleed through that much, but at certain points it definitely does. And so the next are the Pilot 0.3 High-Tech C mica pens. I like these for the most part. They are very, very thin. The nib is 0.3, and so the tip is very, very scratchy. I can feel it just scratching the paper, and that kind of bugs me a little bit because it isn't really a smooth writing experience, if you will. I like the color selection. I like that there's a brown and a yellowy orange, and they're very comfortable to hold, but they don't bleed or ghost through paper at all, and I really appreciate that. They don't smear either, but they do skip. The Poppin Gel Ink pens are in 0.5 versions, and they all have metallic ink, and so I find that that's pretty cool. I like it. But the thing is that they write really smoothly. Again, they do smear just like the Jelly Rolls do. Because of the nature of gel pens, they will smear, and I wouldn't recommend it for a lefty. But I think that they're pretty cool. It's just that they bleed through, same as the Jelly Rolls. No matter what you do, they will bleed. And then next are the Pilot Slim Friction pens. These are the 0.38 versions. I love the design of this pen. It's so comfortable. I love the size. It fits perfectly in my hand, and they do erase, which is really cool. The eraser function does wonders. It erases perfectly without leaving any residue behind, and they don't bleed through at all, which is definitely a plus. They just aren't very high quality pens. They function more for the eraser capability. So in terms of how much these pens bleed through paper, because that's something I get asked a lot. The Jelly Rolls definitely bleed through paper the most. After that, definitely the Poppin gel pens are the second most bleed through pens, and then tied are the Muji .38 and the Pilot Juice .38 pens. I find that they're both pretty comparable in terms of how much they bleed through or ghost through the paper, and it just really depends on personal preference between those two. Then is the Pilot Friction Slim pens. I find they don't really bleed that much, but also the ink isn't very high quality for it to bleed through anyways. And then the ones that bleed through the least are the Pilot Hi-Tech C mica pens, mostly because the nib is just so small and thin that it can't put out enough ink for it to bleed through in the first place. Next, I wanted to quickly go over my ranking of them from least favorite to most. So my least favorites from this bunch are the Pilot Friction Slim pens. Although I love the idea behind them, I think the quality of the pen itself just isn't that great. Next is the Poppin gel ink pens. They just aren't very practical for me, especially with all the metallic shades and how much it bleeds through. Tied for third place are the Sakura Jelly Rolls and the Hi-Tech C mica pens. I like both for completely different reasons. I use the Hi-Tech C mica pens in my Hobonichi planner. I don't have a problem with that. I love using them. They just do skip a lot, and I find myself shaking it rather often. And the Jelly Rolls are very nice for bold titles. The Muji 0.38 are my second favorites. I will grab for them often, but they are inconsistent and I can't really rely on them like I can with the Pilot Juice 0.38 pens. I love those so much. I hope you guys found this video helpful, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up.